how can we move to a practical space towards a more spiritual path?
Say that again? How can we move
from a practical world to a more spiritual one?
How can we move from a practical world? So as an individual, how can we become more spiritual?
Well, yes, especially
or as a society,
as a society, and as well as
the individual.
The individual. You know, like we all have to go through a lot of the practical world. So how can we transition from that world to a more spiritual world?
Yeah, you know, if anything that I could say on this would be me just kind of projecting onto others what I feel would be best for them. And the truth is that everybody gets called into the spiritual realm when they're ready. And most people never get called to and when I say the spiritual realm, I'm really just saying a framework. I'm saying some type of mindset that has them calling into question their existence, asking the bigger questions. Why am I here? You know, what is my intention or purpose? Oftentimes people, especially in the material or capitalistic space, and I talk about it quite a bit, they are constantly chasing what they believe their source of happiness will be, whether that's in the form of financial or material accomplishments or relationship accomplishments. And some people feel that they find it and that they're truly happy, only to then have it dashed because over time they realize that they're ultimately still unfulfilled, or perhaps they end up losing it. And I guess if you get into some of the Buddhist teachings and a lot of spiritual beliefs, the happiness that you seek is always within, and the spiritual path that calls to us is going to call to us when we're ready. So I can tell you that if you're watching these videos, there's a good chance that there's something inside of you that's starting to ask bigger, deeper questions. And I can tell you that if you're looking for a conduit to help accelerate some of these studies, there's some simple ones, which can be things like meditation, yoga, certainly nice conduits. But I can also say just to be more present. Totally talks a lot about presence, and that's like existing in nature, only to hear nature, to just be completely and utterly immersed in that moment, and then to become an observer of your mind and to recognize your capacity to be fully present and to really be engaged in that moment versus your tendency to constantly call yourself out to responsibilities and tasks. And if you're on a spiritual path and you're looking to enhance your spiritual path, then part of the great first step is recognizing the thoughts of the mind and whether or not you honor those thoughts, because they will ultimately call you into self, which will separate you from consciousness. And when I say consciousness, some spiritual intention. And so by getting into nature, by spending time in nature, by taking on projects, be fully and completely in that present moment, it's not an easy undertaking. It's one that takes a lot of time and energy. But if you're able to, over time, develop the skills that let you really be still, you're automatically going to start to connect to the divine. The messages or the answers that you seek and the connection to something greater can only happen most completely in a state of stillness. And so whether it's the individual or a community at large, to be able to find a quiet, safe, protected environment by which you can truly be immersed in that moment is one of the easiest, often elusive, but one of the easiest conduits to move into a more spiritual space.